Thanks everybody for coming. This event is in the honor of Inform Your Community's dear friend, Liam. My name is Robbie. I use he, him pronouns. I have, for those who are visually impaired, I have gingery, crazy hair, especially today, quite crazy. And I'm wearing kind of a flannel shirt, and I have my AirPods in, sitting in my living room. There's a live caption feature for those hearing impaired in Zoom. We have that enabled. At Inform Your Community, we offer events that combine information with fun. We find the best way to talk about difficult topics is to start talking about them. So this is a really important topic. Most of us don't know that 12.2 million American adults have seriously thought about suicide. 3.2 million planned an attempt, and 1.2 million attempted. I think this data is from maybe 2020. I don't have the exact year, but it's data for a recent year. It's common to have this ideation, more common, I think, than most people realize. So it's important to remind everyone that we're not doctors. We cannot give medical advice. We can provide resources to those who are able to act in that capacity, but can't do so ourselves. So to give us the opportunity to talk about this, we chose this movie. It's kind of a funny story, which touched on mental health and the topic of suicide. And we want to have a quick discussion about it. And we'll also be doing a giveaway at the end. So there is a prize today. Our facilitator is Hanali. Hi, Hanali. Thank you for your help today.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Good. Yes, so I will be facilitating today. Thank you, Robbie. Good evening, everyone. I am a program director of a Popcorn and Chat program at Inform Your Community. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm an Indian woman. And I'm currently wearing a blue sweater with a white background. And so, yeah, without further ado, let's get started. And feel free to unmute yourself during discussion to make any comment. You can also use the chat box in the Zoom to make any comments, or you can use the hand raising icon, whatever you're comfortable with. And so I know that everyone has watched the movie or hopefully got to watch all of it. But I want to give a quick recap. The movie, it's kind of a funny story. It follows a young teenager boy named Craig who struggles with mental illness, and it chronicles the days he spends in psychiatric hospital after contemplating taking his own life by jumping off of a bridge. So it was also really interesting to see the inside of a mental health hospital. The deinstitutionalization that began in 1955 in the US plays a big role in how how mental health is treated or what it looks like today. It's changed so much over time. Let's start with what is your opinion on how mental illness was portrayed in the movie? Did anyone have any opinion that stood out to them as soon as they finished watching the movie?
I would say that for me, it was interesting to see like the variation, how many different people that were there in the hospital with him, how they all sort of had different issues, different levels of mental illness.
Yeah, for sure. I think that stood out to me too. It wasn't just Craig and what he was going through, but we got a glimpse of all the other patients that was there. So that was very interesting to me also.
And I feel like that's probably a little bit like for the character, it's a little bit of it's a learning experience, right? That's not just treatment. It's also like your exposure, the exposure to all the other stuff that's going on.
Yeah. And like a lot of people who were lucky enough to not have to have had suicide effect in their lives associate famous people like Sylvia Plath and Anthony Bourdain with suicide. But I was glad to see like a relatable character in the movie, who we can basically relate to when it comes to issues like these. And it's, you can relate to person to see what they went through and things like that. So
We've all been 15, right?
Yeah.
Like even that is just so relatable.
Yeah. Just even the thought process, all the stressors, we've been through those stressors that he went through. So that was very interesting. And like, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
Right from the beginning, Craig wasn't taken seriously. So, and then that showed throughout the movie and with his father, relationship with his father. So looking at how mental health isn't, being seen as significant and important, that it showed in that movie.
Yeah, I agree. I remember he had to convince his way into getting admitted.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really it's still such a stigma, like a stigma. It's really hard for people to go about, because it's not a physical injury that you can see. It makes it really, really hard. But yeah, and I think mental health looks different for everyone, and there's no one general way to treat it. So especially with the cause and symptoms looking different for everyone, it's complicated. And even it wasn't even until 2013 that the suicide behavioral disorder was recommended for inclusion. So it's such like a new concept for different cultures and different areas, and I think it just needs like more voices heard and more people knowing about it for people to take it seriously. Yes, Michelle.
Yeah, I thought in the beginning, I haven't seen the whole movie yet because I got on a little bit late. But in the beginning of the movie, when he's about to jump off, and the dad says that the bike was really expensive, and what about your sister? I mean, it had a little bit of comedy to it in that regards. I mean, at least that's how I took it. But also I took it as when someone hears that, where they feel like someone that they knew out of the blue jump, whatever they did to try to commit suicide, and people automatically go, well, gee, they just got a promotion, they just graduated from school, they got all these good things going on. So in that scene is what I took from it, was that the person has so many investments in their life, or that they hadn't given thought to the people around them, and it's always that stigma that that the shame attached to it, that it's that the person was selfish, and it's people not really understanding that when I've only had a little bit of depression. I've never had a clinical depression or anything like that. I've functional depression. I guess they say anxiety depression. But people who are in that spectrum of say it's the deeper end of it, of the illness, they're not looking at accomplishments. They're not, they're really just hanging on by a thin string of just living life. It's not even about what bill is due, what they've done or anything like that. And that just from that one little part of the scene with that little bit of humor. But I think that's what it was to me. That's how I took it, was how people are questioning and just don't get it, don't understand why somebody's motivation to do that.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like everybody's, like I said, the cause and the symptoms look different. So specific stressors or symptoms might not be as relatable to some people, and some people might not get it. So I definitely see that point in that scene, for sure. Oh, I think we have someone in the chat box that said something. that is a great point regarding how we see people on the outside. Others do not know what is going on in the inside of others, and how suicide is seen as selfish. Yes, for sure. So what do you think helped Craig get to a better place at the end of the movie? It seemed like the movie had a happy ending. I know some people didn't get to see the whole thing, but it turns out that he came out of the hospital feeling pretty content, and found a way to cope with his illness. So what do you think helped him get to a better place for those who got that far in the movie? Yes, Jessica.
Seeing how messed up everybody else is, how we're all kind of going through life and having issues, and everybody has their stuff, and and also not putting so much pressure on himself. That was like a really big thing. His father put a lot of pressure on him. And overachievers sometimes overachievers feel like they have too much pressure.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So if you look back, it's interesting because the idea of mental health and suicide has been around for a very long time. I mean, Shakespeare's Ophelia commits suicide at the first performance at Hamlet in like 1600, which was 400 years ago. And yet when it comes to openly discussing mental health, it's not fully accepted in many cultures, not just, in the US, it's this thing everywhere. And it wasn't even until 1946 when the National Mental Health Act was passed and the mental health became a federal priority. So I think the culture is still starting to accept or understand the concept, but I think it's going to require a lot of informing and, research and, just talking in the environment, I think. Yes, Anastasia.
I think it also helped that he was able to get some therapies there, and not only just speaking with counselors, which he seemed to do, but also there like a music therapy that he was able to do. I think they went to like an art therapy they were able to do. So just knowing that there's different kinds of therapies. I even remember the scene where they're like running around. I think I seem to think research shows that just physical activity can help with depression. And he was able to, despite the awful situation, he was able to make friends there, so I think there were lots of things they showed in the movie that would have possibly helped him to get where he was in the end.
Yes, I totally agree. From personal experience too, when I started getting in physical activity, even if it's 10 minutes a day or going for a walk, it just seemed like I just had a better day if I started off that way, or even in the evening when I got some fresh air or did something for myself that's not work or school or anything as such, just instantly helped with my mental health, just felt better. Hard to explain, but yeah. And also, I guess when it comes to mental health, like Stacy said, like making friends, getting therapy or therapies, being active physically, engaging in activities, journaling, and using things like feeling wheel or taking a break from stressors and being aware of triggers that can all help with mental health. So what resources would you recommend for mental health and suicide prevention? Do you happen to know any?
Hanali, there was just the one more comment in the chat about the last question.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I didn't see that. The character of Craig shows that one gets out of the therapies from what he was willing to put into it. Yes, that's true. I guess it, in a way, it does go both ways. And I think therapy looks different for everyone. We're not doctors, but I think, I think a therapist would know the best. But I think, yeah, like if you're willing to change, I think therapies work better from personal experience. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, so So yeah, what resources would you recommend for mental health and suicide prevention? Would you happen to know any that you've heard of or used or anything as such that you'd like to share? That you know, or anything as such besides, I guess, therapy. I think one of the resources was established in 2005 was the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline that saved millions of lives. Even though that 2005 is very recent. Yeah, so hotline, Michelle said suicide prevention hotline. Yeah. And then, yeah, another resource for information and support is NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness. So those are the two that we know. Any other that you know of, or anything you've used personally that you think would be helpful?
There's a new suicide and crisis lifeline too, right? Like just in the past year, I think they like, because it used to be like a long 800 number or something, and now it's 988.
Oh, yeah. No, that one.
Yeah, because it's pretty new, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what, yeah.
988. And there's also like those therapy apps.
Oh, yes.
I haven't tried them, but I see like ads for them everywhere.
Yeah,
I don't know
definitely. 'Cause I think people are especially like recently I've seen that there has been improvements in terms of how mental health is portrayed. Like 50 to 175 times more patients have seen health professionals, in part to the availability of telehealth options before the pandemic. And people seem to get comfortable seeking help virtually since those options are available, and then ease their way into different resources. So especially in my friends group, I've seen people use the virtual therapy options or virtual Zoom calls and things like that. It's been very, very helpful for people who are busy also and can just squeeze in some time to do a therapy call. I think that has, it has been able to be, therapy has been able to reachable to many people because of that. Yeah, so I guess some of you may have found this movie to be very powerful, or I would say may have found this to be a powerful movie. So why was this movie a powerful movie? Like, why do you think that this movie was powerful? How do you perceive it from your lens?
Hello. I'm new here. I just finished the movie.
Hi.
Hey,
I'll answer your question.
Yeah.
I thought it was at first it was a little hard to get into, I thought, because it almost seemed to make light of I guess the suicide. And I actually lost someone to suicide that was very close. But sort of, as the movie progressed, I felt it touched on how we're all touched by different problems and what we are stressed by or what we are affected by in our lives. And as people started to outreach to each other, and the young boy started to smile again and start turning outward towards other people and being less closed, I thought that was very powerful, especially when they all started kind of doing little things for each other.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, like I think it's all how, like, it really relates to people in different ways based on their personal experiences and how they take it, what things stood out to them. Like, what other things stood out to you guys in terms of the movie and different scenes that were powerful, that you guys thought would be something that, like, oh, I didn't think of it this way, or oh, this was really interesting, or this really resonated with me?
For me, I thought the movie did a good job of showing all. I think it's kind of what Jessica was saying too. All the different things that could have affected folks without placing blame. You know, oftentimes I think people are like, you know, misguidedly trying to find a cause. And I think the movie did a really good job of not kind of buying into that and to really diffusing that responsibility over all the many, many, many things that are going on in our lives that could, you know, in all of the ways play a role.
Yeah, for sure. I think we have a comment in the chat also. Tyler said, I think another powerful thing it really highlights is the power of connection. Once he was able to connect with people who felt similar feelings as him, he felt less alone, and that itself is very powerful. Yes, that's very true.
Also, can I also say something about
Yes.
about that? It's sometimes people don't really have a reason to be depressed. Like you would think, like somebody like Anthony Bourdain, who was rich, who had money, who flew all over the world. You would say, why would he do that? He finally had a child. I don't know why, but I know that he was profoundly depressed, and sometimes the disease just wins.
Yeah, when I was back, I've read some articles when I was, I guess, 15. I don't remember exactly who it was, but famous people, you know, who have tons of you know, you would think that they have tons of wealth and things like that. You see them commit suicide or things like that, and it really, you don't know why they would do that. You think that they are already so well off, but it's different for everyone. So I think you bring up a great point with that. I think seeing people like Craig in the movie, as well as famous people like Steve Burns and Janelle Monáe and Kevin Hines, openly talk about their experiences with mental health, making it one step closer to destigmatizing the mental health concept. And it helps to demonstrate so many different types of therapies as well, including talk therapy, creative arts therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectal behavioral therapy like DBT, and even taking medication, you know. So there are so many ways and so many things related to mental health that we can use in that sense. Yeah, and there has been many improvements, like I said, in the recent years. So how do you think as a community we can help others going through mental health or mental illness? Like, what can we do as a community? Because many times, even person next to us that we just met, they would look perfectly fine to us, but we don't know what they're going through. They could be going through something that we have no idea. So what can we do as a community to be able to you know, stay mindful and, you know, help, basically?
I'll add to that. So I guess having personally met someone who was who had depression, and then it finally got through to me, hearing from different experts and so forth, because we always want to offer advice or suggestions. We always want to try to fix people's problems. And so what I learned, like from people who, you know, are having, you know, mental health issues, is that they just want someone to listen to them without offering any solution, or they just want to be heard. And so I think that would probably be a good start. It's just to like say, you know, I'm here. I'll listen to you, and just to validate, you know, that they're suffering, and saying that you hear what they say, just kind of saying it back to them, but not like offering any kind of like, you know, those little things, oh, when it rains, it pours, like those little kind of things, because they're not really helpful. And, you know, people in that type of situation, they just want to have someone to talk to without having someone try to fix their problem.
Yes, I think definitely having someone just listen to you and just, you know, have no other comments, I think that really, really helps. Yes, Anastasia.
I was going to mention there is something in somebody wrote something in the chat. If I can read it, I'll
Yes.
So somebody wrote the movie was relatable. Others experienced similar mental health difficulties, as may the audience. I watched this movie with my son, who attempted suicide and was admitted to inpatient care. My son could relate and commented how, in quotes, that is how it was for me. So it says normalized mental health for him. So even something like watching this movie to really kind of see what it might be like, and that it's such a it seems like it's a relatively authentic, at least some of it, representation of what it might be like for some. That last part was mine, not from the commenter.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And then I know we have more comments in the chat also. I guess ways we can help in the community and reach out. So definitely reach out, something small. That's what Jessica said. And then Marianne said, I'm always open about it with everyone. Jessica also said, be friends, show kindness. Tyler, sorry. Yeah, I think. Yeah. And then Michelle said, teach our youth about mental health, have conversations with our tweens and teens. Yes.
If I can follow up to that,
Yeah.
you know, with my experience of meeting a friend too that almost was going to commit suicide, you know, they hide it. You don't even know that something is affecting them, that depression, you know. And it wasn't till I had shared personal struggles of what I was going through that they opened up, and I even learned that. So sometimes it's just, you know, reaching out, befriending someone. You know, he had gone through a bad divorce, and you know, struggled with some personal stuff on the side, and you know, I just got to talking, you know, and reaching out, knowing, you know, I knew him from soccer, and I was like, hey, you want to hang out? Like, I know it must be kind of lonely, you know, and that was just kind of the start of things. So sometimes just opening up about your own struggles, to know, like, for other people to know that are not alone. You know, like, again, I didn't even know that he would have ever committed suicide, you know, and then he told me that, you know, because I befriended him, you know, he wasn't feeling as alone. And, you know, just staying positive about stuff and having things to live for. And then, you know, they changed their mind, you know, so that was really powerful when I heard that.
Yes, definitely creating that comfortable environment really helps with people around you, and being able to be comfortable to speak to you about anything as they need and seek out help. They know that it's comfortable. It's, you know, you bring that comfortable environment to them for them to be able to speak their mind, and that's very powerful. I know. Yeah.
Can I say something? When my
Yeah.
mother died, and the only thing that was left was my dog in my house with me, was very comforting for me to have a dog. And just knowing I have to get up and walk the dog, and I have to feed the dog, I have to take care of this animal. It's helpful. I don't know if it's going to help everybody, but I know what it did for me.
Yeah, pets are great. They show so much love, and they accompany you, especially when you feel lonely. They listen to you, and like we were expecting, you know, they listen, but they don't have any opinions, and sometimes you don't need that. So that's very powerful. I know Tyler in the chat said, I've described it as getting it out and making it real. It's very powerful.
Oh, thank you.
And also, I think information is a great resource that can help people. For example, looking up statistics can bring you insight into what someone or even you may be experiencing. And knowing that top 3 commonly diagnosed mental health disorders in the US are anxiety disorder, depressive disorder, and bipolar disorder. And it's important to be able to understand that mental health illness looks different for everyone, you know. And we increase our awareness further when we understand, for example, that the risk of suicide increases, especially when these co-occur with substance dependence. And so I think it's very important to be mindful of your, I guess, actions in a sense. Sometimes it can be really, really hard, but understanding that some of these statistics can really help with coping, just in being informed. And so, yeah, and sometimes it's not obvious that someone is going through something. So what should we stay mindful of as a community? I think we can increase awareness of resources like 988 that we mentioned, and NAMI available to people that need it. Not everyone knows, so it's really important to be able to give that resources to people around you. And although we may associate suicide with young people because we see represented in the media a lot, just like the movie we just watched, be aware that 35 to 45-year-olds have high suicide rate, as do people over 85 statistically. So it's not just what we see in the media, it's a broader range. So we have to be mindful of things. And also some people associate suicide with self-harm. But often these may relate to two different issues. Self-harm and self-injury refers to behavior used by people with extreme mental health problems who do not have other coping tools. And so over 200,000 emergency visits of those between the age of 10 and 14 years are due to self-harm. And the rates of girls or young women are twice as much as boys. So it's really important to educate ourselves and others around us to be able to cope with these things. And so, yeah. Oh, and then one more thing, if I guess if you notice someone with semicolon tattoo, realize that it has an important meaning that a life has not ended, as would be represented with a period. And it's continuing. So it's knowing those symbols and values, I think would help with being able to educate others with information and just being a tight-knit community in that sense. Yeah, and so does anyone have, I think someone just sent a few chats that I missed. Yes, Jessica said that's interesting. I didn't know about semicolon. Yes. And Tyler said, Robbie said my cat likes that answer, Jessica, about pets. He heard you somehow. He's rubbing all over my legs. And Tyler said mine does too. She's actually my emotional support animal. Mm-hmm. Marianne said, I have it tattoo and on my Jeep. Michelle said, as a teacher, I've been trained in recognizing mental health in adolescents, and I have taken adolescent psychology courses. I find it extremely difficult to notice the signs because the adolescents with which I work keep much private and on the side. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's yeah, definitely. And I know Jessica mentioned like trying to create that comfortable environment for people to have you be more approachable and be able to help people around you makes it really, really helpful, and one way to help people around us in our community.
Could a teacher say something like, if you're struggling, please let me know so I can help you. Please just talk to us.
Yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
I'm a teacher part-time, and anything you can do to let students know that you're open to conversations, or if they need help, if there's it can't hurt to say those things, whether they'll take an advantage of it or not, but certainly I've had students who sometimes you kind of think maybe they're going through something, and you can kind of throw that lifeline out, and it may feel uncomfortable to you to do it too, because you might think like I'm overstepping, maybe I shouldn't ask, or maybe I shouldn't bother them, or maybe they'll feel uncomfortable if I say something to them. But if you're doing it in the spirit of like, I just want to check in, how are you doing? If I can be of help, just know my door is always open. I've definitely had students who take advantage of that. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, no, no.
If I can add, likewise, I think first as a teacher, having formed a relationship with the students already, where then they will feel comfortable to approach you, is really important.
Yeah. I know that in my undergrad university and the master's program I'm in right now, I know they have a whole department full of counseling resources. So that being able to know that it's going to be confidential and being able to have that help and reach out to them is very important. Like it helps, like I know that I have resources. So I guess students sometimes don't know that they have these resources. So if, just telling students, oh, did you know that a school has this? We have counselors, we have this, we have that. So that also helps in that sense. And we have some comments in the chat box. Jessica said, how do teachers deal with depression from a young age? I know social media and bullying is common nowadays. We didn't have that back then so much. And then Robbie said, I had a rough and depressed childhood and was lucky to have a teacher and counselor who introduced me to poetry and art therapy in the 4th grade, which really helped me.
Yeah, those are great suggestions. And as Robbie said, I don't mean to be negative, but I find it difficult because it's difficult to be confidential. So if students tell us something, we have to report it. And so then they know that, talking about teenagers, high schoolers. So there's a little bit struggle there for me too, as the adult and wanting to help them, but you can't just say, well, go to the mental health liaison. You can't push them off. But these are good ideas in ways to help them know what's available to them. But depending how much they tell me, then I'm supposed to report it.
I'm curious what state you're in. Is it like the state laws, or is it like a district laws? Oh, and I think Michelle has her hand up too. I didn't mean to cut in line.
Yes, Michelle.
Well,
Heather.
Yeah, that's okay. I think I just did it the same time that you were chatting, so you didn't cut in line. But I was also thinking too that because I haven't been in high school for a very long time, but a lot of teens, and I actually work as a professional nanny, so I do work with teenagers and older kids, and I end up the backseat ends up being like the counselor. When I'm driving and the kids are in the back, they kind of tend to tell me things. But going back in my childhood and going in school, kids really do talk to each other, and the society now is a lot more open, and kids, are easily able to tell other kids what's going on and get that information out. And I just wonder, like with mental health, and I mean, we have these campaigns and stuff, and social media has kind of changed things too. But I wonder, if like say the government itself, needs to start putting forth more mental health available that'll be free. That's not like so much as like being admitted into a hospital, or the fear of having to go to a teacher and know that the teacher has to disclose information, because like, for younger kids, everything that goes in that's happening in their world is a big deal. That's how they're learning their coping skills and such. But yeah, it just makes me wonder, like how we can get more of that information out, because between all the cuts and things in school, health, education, and all of those kind of things, I remember a little bit of like suicide prevention, or like they would just or if you took like a psychology class in school and stuff like that. But yeah, I think there definitely needs to be more talk about it. I think there definitely needs to be more resources and things like that. And also, I know that they talk about mindfulness and about kids doing yoga and learning ways to relax and things like that. So I definitely think that that we need to like do more.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I know we have one last comment in the chat. For someone around 12 years old, what is helpful to address someone to open up, or how to help with depression? For someone 12 years old.
I do want to jump in and add that I feel like at any age, me and my friends call it reciprocated vulnerability. Like being willing to be vulnerable, even if it's not to the same extent that you're trying to get out of someone. Like if they know that it's not a one-sided vulnerability and they're just like spilling their guts to you, and you're willing to also be vulnerable with them and share like more personal information about your own situations and things like that, that will help someone be more likely to open up.
Yeah, definitely. All right. And then I see one more comment.
I was just going to say too, and maybe if you're in that situation, is to ask others who might have been in that situation, or talk to professionals who can give you guidance on what to say, what to do. Look up ways to online maybe about how to broach a topic in that sense.
Yeah. And in the comments, it says more prevention through stress management strategies. Definitely. And so keep in mind, there's no shame in seeking help. You can seek help from friends, family, mental health professional, dialing 988 and or National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, as well as other resources out there. If you're in school, there are resources that's available to you. If not, there are other resources out there in the community that you can take advantage of. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending this discussion and learning about this topic with us. I will now transition to Tyler and Robbie to close this out.
Thanks, Sonali. Tyler, I think, wanted to do the giveaway.
Yes. So I'm just like getting myself together.
We have a prize.
We do. We have a prize because the discussion doesn't end here. So we're doing a giveaway for a game called Kind Words. It's a copy of the game that you can redeem on Steam, which is a gaming platform, and you can play it on Windows, Mac, or I believe it works on Linux as well. And the official description of the game is that it's a game about writing nice letters to real people. You write and receive encouraging letters in a cozy room, trade stickers, and listen to chill music. We're all in this together. Sometimes all you need are a few kind words. This game is rated 10 out of 10 on Steam and has probably more than this now, but there were 6,707 reviews, of which 98% were positive. So let me see. So we're going to draw a random winner from everybody who's here tonight. And then if you can just send me your email in the chat, I can get your copy of your game to you. So let's see. So I don't know if we want a drum roll. I don't know if we can drum roll. And our winner is Mary Ann Gogan.
Yay.
Congratulations, man.
Yes, congratulations. If you're able to send us your email, then I will get all of that information to you. And now I will pass it to Robbie for some closing remarks, and thank you again for joining us tonight.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining. This was really interesting and it felt good. It felt good to share. Because the topic is ongoing, it's not a one and done topic. We'll send our infographic in a follow-up email that includes some resources for further reading, further understanding. We encourage you to share the infographic, help educate others about this topic. We ask also that you commit to a weekly act to help raise mental health awareness and support suicide prevention. Understand the butterfly effect and how one small action can make a huge difference. Asking loved ones how you can support them, making it a point to talk. In our busy lives, in our distracted lives, making some space for it. Let folks know they can find the film. It's kind of a funny story. It's for purchase on Amazon Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, and YouTube. If you're thinking about suicide or worried about a friend or loved one or would like emotional support, the Lifeline network is available 24/7 across the United States by dialing 988. That's that new hotline. Well, it's an established hotline, but it's a new number. It's only 988. Look and learn more about Inform Your Community events. You can go to our website, informyourcommunity.org. We have popcorn and chat events, but we also have other programs as well. Please participate in our quick survey poll here on Zoom. It should pop up in a moment. Your feedback is important to us. Check our website for upcoming events. Our next event is a crafting event, and it's a children's crafting event about invisible disabilities on March 25th. Children will be making their own journals. Thank you all so much. This was lovely.